Hey guys, it's Kyle from Razor's Edge Performance, and we're here with another jump progression video. This is the second video in the series, and we're going to be talking about forceful muscular contraction. To recap, the first video is about proper landing mechanics. Some of the reasons why landing mechanics are so important. One, it teaches you how to generate a lot of force really quickly and for deceleration, which will also in turn help your acceleration when you're coming out of the jump. Two, it helps you maintain, build up eccentric strength and maintain really good positions through the deceleration, which in turn will give you a good position to accelerate out of if you're doing some sort of counter movement jump or repetitive jump. And three, it just allows you to be a lot more efficient with multiple jump strategies, and it's a good training tool, especially for beginners, in terms of just building up strength and technique in jumping. So now we're going to move on to forceful muscular contraction. So when we generally talk about plyometrics, most of the time we're talking about the stretch shorten cycle, and if you don't know what that is, the stretch shorten cycle is when through joint range of motion you pre-stretch a muscle and a tendon. So if you watch guys do the vertical jump at the football combine, see they'll drop into a big squat first, or not a big squat, but they'll drop down into what we call a counter movement, pre-stretch the calves, the quads, the glutes, and then explode out into their jump in order to build up more kinetic energy and activate more muscle fibers and motor units through that pre-stretch. So that's obviously going to give us a lot more performance. But athletes of that magnitude and that level are already very powerful muscularly. So, a muscular contraction is needed, especially when we need what we call starting strength. If you look at someone who's starting out of the blocks, they're in the stationary stuck position. They don't have the ability to do a stretch shorten before the gun goes off. They have to start from that stationary position. There are all kinds of scenarios in other sports that you see that, offensive, defensive linemen down in their stance. They might be holding that stance for 5-10 seconds, and then they have to try and explode off the line. That requires a lot of starting strength. So we do have to train our muscle to be able to contract forcefully and create power from a stop. So the way that we do that is we set ourselves up the same way, and we use the same sort of landing mechanics that we used in our first jump, but once we're there, we're going to pause and just hang out in that position. So obviously, because it's a video, I can pause and hang out here for as long as we want, but if Ian was doing a jump here, and I'll show it to you in regular speed, he's going to go down and pause for about 3 or 4 seconds. So if I have him play it, he's going to pause, 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 and then explode out of that jump. So the same way, I keep timing us here, the same way that we were loading up in our first one, our first video, we're going to hang out in that spot for a second, and notice that we're in a nice position. We're a little bit more vertical than we were, sorry about that, we're a little bit more vertical than we were in the first video, which I said I was looking for. And you see that he's obviously loaded up in the quads, loaded up in the calves, loaded up in the glutes. Each of those joints, the hip, the knee, and the ankle, are stretched. But because he's pausing for 3 or 4 seconds, that pre-stretch is going to get lost. And now it's down to his calves, quads, and glutes to power him up out of that jump. So he's from the stationary position, and he's going to create that starting power and explode, explode, explode. Oh, that wasn't the jump. Okay, so he's down in his pause, and then he's going to explode out of that jump and go as high as he possibly can. So that was all from just muscular contraction. So if I was testing and measuring his counter movement, if you were to actually stretch and then explode out of it, would be significantly higher, or at least relatively higher than this forceful muscular contraction. But it is an important place to start. If you have weak athletes or young athletes who don't have a lot of experience, a lot of strength, experience in jumping and a lot of strength, this is a great place to start. So this is step 2, forceful muscular contraction. So obviously, as we go through this progression, it's not like you're going to use one plyometric progression or tool and just discard it when we move on to the next level. These are 2 stages now that you can use for your programming. So what I'll do is I'll program in some pause jumps, as we call them, or squat jumps or something like that into my program, but I'll also work in repetitive jumps, counter movement jumps, and even eccentric loading through dropping off of a box and sticking that landing position. So even for an athlete who's at the elite level, there are always ways to utilize these different strategies in order to recruit different characteristics. So when it comes to a new athlete, though, this is the second thing I like to teach, and this is the second video for our jump progression. So I hope that you learned something again, and stay tuned for video number 3, and that's when we're going to progress into that counter movement jump. If you want a little bit of a primer, that's what a counter movement jump is going to look like. Bang and out. So see you guys later, and stay tuned for video number 3. Ciao.